I'm Mark Janes. Welcome to this edition of the Scouting Report. A look at Beech Grove football. We're happy to report that since we last talked to you, Hornets picked up a conference win. They started the season with a very tough contest against one of the 1A powers, one of the teams that's expected to be around a lot deeper into the postseason tournament. That's Lutheran. Mark Weller's the head football coach at Beech Grove High School. And, Coach, let's take a brief recap, if we will. Came out of the gate maybe a little sluggish against Lutheran, and then as the game progressed, you seemed to play better and better.
We really did. We early didn't allow ourselves to compete, had some silly mistakes, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But we challenged the kids at halftime, and they really rose to the occasion and fought as hard as any team I've seen. Getting it within a touchdown to tie, and having a chance to go in at the end. So real proud of the kids' effort with that one.
You said going into that game that offensive line that Coach Pash has put together over there at Indianapolis Lutheran would be the kind of offensive line that a lot of 4, 5, and 6A coaches would drool over. How did your kids handle that?
They did well. They did well. Early on, it was a little bit of an adjustment. They averaged pretty much 280 across the board. Yeah. And they're good kids. They're just not big kids.
Right.
But our kids really, after getting, kind of used to it, rose to the occasion and really played well defensively in the second half.
You had a young man who had a pretty impressive night offensively for you, Jamal Brumfield.
Jamal did a great job the last 2 weeks. He's a definite threat within our conference. Has had 2 games now with over 200 yards receiving, has scored a number of touchdowns, so he'll be getting quite a bit of attention from our opponent's defenses from here on out.
And I don't think people can fully appreciate the amount of work that he's put in and how far he has come, not only through, when everyone first became aware of him as a middle schooler, but coming in as a freshman. This kid's really worked hard. It's been a breakthrough year for him, his senior campaign. But I think the thing that amazes me the most is, what's the kid run? Maybe a $145, 140 soaking wet?
He's a smaller kid, but I tell you the neatest thing about Jamal, not just how he's grown as a football player, how he's grown as a person and has matured.
Sure.
And has his priorities set. And they go hand in hand, and you can see that on the football field.
Yeah. Well, let's move forward then. Let's move past that loss to Lutheran and talk a little bit about last Friday night's win, a conference win against Park Tudor. And you mentioned you challenged your kids at halftime at Lutheran. They came out and responded. Had a couple of nicks and cuts and things like that, and bruises, if you will. Some kids that were on the shelf. You needed the next man to step up, and because they were willing to do that, those waiting in the wings, you had a pretty good night against Park Tudor.
We did okay. We did okay. We had 5 or 6 kids that had to step up. Their really first time of any significant varsity play, and we came through okay. They played hard, kind of shook out the cobwebs per se, but any time you get a big win in our conference, that's good.
You look every week to get better. There's no question about that, each and every week. And this early in the season, you probably, that scope is pretty wide, and each and every week you want to narrow it a little bit more. Anything a pleasant surprise to you so far the first 2 weeks of the season? Is there anything you can point to and say, hey, we're a little bit better at that or in this area than we thought we'd be?
We knew we would be effective offensively. Our big thing was, big play capabilities, which has really come through for us. But our pass protection with our offensive line, has been surprisingly good. Because we knew people would come after us, and we kind of have those 5 guys on an island. And they've done really well so far.
Well, let's talk about the guy that's in charge of that unit, new to the staff this year. Not new to Beech Grove City Schools, but you have to be awfully happy with him. Let's talk about him a little bit.
Anthony Freemanis, we were able to get from Danville, has been a tremendous asset, brings a lot of successful experience to our program, has developed a great working relationship with our kids, and has really brought that group along very well. And we had almost a new line going against Park Tudor, and he's done a very good job of getting those kids ready.
Who are some of those kids?
Well, this past week, Ricky Shockley stepped up, did a great job. Angel Aguilar has come through and has done everything we've asked. And a big surprise on the year is Dorian Robinson. You know, we knew he would help us out defensively, and with the way the season's panned out, we had to use him on the offensive side of the ball. He works his tail off, has done everything we've asked, and you know, has done a fantastic job. And really, that group is led by Jarrett McCoy. You know, has experience since a freshman. You know, he really is a leader in that group. Austin Collins is also a leader. He's done a great job with effort. Ricky Skirvin, this past week, has had to play linebacker for the first time ever, as well as had a pretty tough blocking assignment against Park Tudor's kid going to Notre Dame. So all those kids have done a great job of pulling it together for us.
Well, and I think just the vibe that I get in talking to you the past couple of weeks, and then, you know, for a week or two before the season started, there was a level of frustration. We touched upon it during our first show of the year, at the fact that, folks, there were some 19, 20 kids that for academic reasons were not eligible to participate in football this fall. Now, everything was put in place for them to be able to participate, but there were some responsibilities they had in the summer, quite frankly, that they didn't take care of. Now, getting past all of that, almost from the time that you, of course, you're busy all summer long, but I get this feeling through late July and early August and into the season, you really like this group of kids that you have on this football team.
Oh, I love this group. There are zero problems.
Yeah.
You know, our kids show up, they're willing to work hard, they take care of business out off the field, you know, in the school, and that's really refreshing. And we always talk, I'm a firm believer, that carries over to the field.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about this week. Folks, every conference game is important, but I'm going to guess this one carries a bit more significance for our head football coach, Mark Weller. He takes all the Speedway spark plugs. He spent a number of years in various capacities with the football program, the athletic program at Speedway, but more importantly, Denny Pelly, one of the best of all time in the state of Indiana. Retired last season, and his longtime assistant and their good friend Steve Ray takes over as the head football coach at Speedway High School. Before we get into the game itself, you know, obviously you and Denny, Coach Pelly, were close for years. You and Coach Ray are close. Kind of bittersweet to be able to coach against Steve for the first time as the head coach, or do you just want to beat him?
Well, it's interesting. He's one of my closest friends.
Sure.
You know, we spend a lot of time together off the field in a way. His first year at Speedway, you want to see him do well, but you know, he has some NFL experience. He's, you know, has college coaching experience. He kind of took me under his wing when I was just out of college. So definitely want to beat him. Definitely want to beat him. But it's you know, it's bittersweet. I always root for those guys every week of the year except for one.
Steve Ray has been Denny Pelly's right-hand man for a number of years at Speedway, and I think Coach Pelly would be one of the first to tell you that Steve deserves a lot of the credit for the success that they've had over the years.
Oh, absolutely. Through the years, you know, we've had a ton of success, semi-states, #1 rankings, a heck of a lot of wins. And they have a tremendous staff overall there, and they always have had. You know, that crew has been together for over 20 years, the core components of that staff. But, you know, Steve has been a huge part of that offense and the development of the kids ever since we started in 1991. So, you know, it's I'm happy to see him have that position, and, you know, hopefully we'll be up to the challenge Friday night.
Some coaches would not pick up a film and take a look at Speedway until the week prior to Speedway, wanting to focus solely on games week by week by week. I've got a sneaking suspicion you've probably taken a peek or two at some film, even though, you know, it was a Lutheran week or you were getting ready for Park Tudor. So what do you see about Speedway? I know a big loss. A young man went to Notre Dame. Justin Brent was a phenomenal athlete, one of the best in the state of Indiana. I'm guessing, though, the cupboard's far from bare at Speedway.
Oh, it really is. You know, they're a program. They just kind of reload. They're not as strong as they have been. They have a freshman quarterback, but a very good freshman quarterback. You know, they're young up front, but their strength, they have two good backs that are pretty typical for Speedway, very good athletes. They'll be aggressive kids. They'll be well coached. So, you know, when you have a program like that, you always have your work cut out for you to go against them.
I've always been impressed at what they've been able to manufacture, as you mentioned, and it's a program because, especially running back and linebacker, they just seem to be, they manufacture them. It's like they encourage parents in the community of Speedway to raise their sons to be running backs and linebackers. They're always very strong there.
They really are, and it's no different this year. You know, I would say those two positions are the strongest positions they have on the field, and we definitely have our work cut out for us there.
Is the message this week, I think I saw you tweet something similar over the weekend after the win against Park Tudor. At some point, a signature win has to come to indicate that we've gotten to the corner and maybe we're starting to scoot around it a little bit. Do you view this week as that opportunity?
I really do. Yeah. I really do. With the work our seniors have put in, the work our team as a whole, I have no doubt that we can get these guys this week. And it's a big win, maybe the biggest win since I've been here for our program, an opportunity to knock off, you know, one of the conference and state stalwarts.
I think, you know, it's clear that things have maybe, I want to put this the right way because I don't want to end up being bulletin board material, but maybe the balance has shifted in the conference from one or two schools to a level of a little more parity. And each and every week, it seems like now, based upon the scores we're seeing from the first couple of weeks, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion anymore as to who the best team in the conference might be, and anybody has a chance on any given week.
You know, they really do. You know, we've all talked about this being probably the toughest small school conference in the state, but there's parity within this conference like I've never seen. You know, we're much improved. The other teams are solid. There's not a standout team in the conference, so anything can happen in any week.
We're doing the show the Tuesday after Labor Day, and tonight, of course, the Beech Grove freshman team will take the field. Let's talk a little bit about your freshman program. Who's heading that up for you this year?
Bill Endries has done a fantastic job with our freshman program. He's, you know, building numbers, but building numbers the right way. He has high expectations with the kids on and off the field. He makes it fun for them. He does a great job teaching. We really like that freshman group. You know, there's a bunch of aggressive kids, good football players, program type kids that I think will have a bright future for us.
Well, and some folks may not get the gist of this, but we effectively canceled the JV schedule, but we're playing a full freshman schedule. Let's just share with the folks who may not know the decision-making process there. It's tough in our size school within our conference. Most programs have what they call C teams, which are made up of freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, predominantly a JV team. Right.
You know, in years past, we've had predominantly freshman kids going up against those types of teams.
We did that last year.
Which is a tough road. I mean,
sure
there's a big difference between freshmen and then playing against sophomores and juniors. So this year, we really aim to, with our group, to make it a completely freshman schedule for the most part. And we still will have to play against a few C teams just because that's all we can find. But we really wanted to focus mainly on freshman teams to give our kids more of a productive experience.
And hopefully as the year progresses, we can keep you updated on that. We'll even touch on what's going on at the middle school. So in order to get the win Friday night, the typical intangibles, take care of the football, no turnovers, eliminate, you know, mistakes through penalties, don't shoot yourself in the foot. Pretty basic game plan.
Really is. It's our game plan hasn't changed. Our bottom line, I think, this week, a big key for us will be defense. You know, we need to stop the run.
Sounds like things are going in the right direction. Good luck Friday night.
Thank you, Mark.
That's Mark Weller. I'm Mark Janes, your host for the Scouting Report. Coach Weller will be back with us next week. Get out and support Hornet Athletics all throughout the course of this week, and of course support the Hornets Friday night and root them on to a big conference win against the Speedway Spark Plugs. Again, I'm Mark Janes. So long for now.